Hello everyone. So welcome to my day 3 session of full DevOps course. And in today's session, I would like to talk about virtual machine, its benefits. I'm pretty much sure that you would have heard about this term at least. Virtual machines being a buzzword nowadays, having servers getting replaced by virtual machines. In past, it was not there. In past, it was mostly the physical server. But today we'll try to understand what is virtual machines. It is very important component of IT industry. Now, first of all, I would like to thank everyone for watching my day 1 and day 2 videos, and all those who did not watch my day 1 and day 2 videos on full DevOps course, please go ahead and watch. It's a part of same playlist. It will be certainly helpful for you because in day 1 I spoke about what is DevOps, why DevOps, and in day 2 I spoke about SDLC process, which is pretty much important nowadays for any company to work along, and the different standards which SDLC process follows. So now today let's talk about virtual machine. I'm pretty much sure that many of you will be aware of virtual machines, but I'll try to make it as simple as possible so that even though who knows about it will get more information, and all those who does not know about it will get lots of information about virtual machines. It will be very much essential for you because going forward in our upcoming session when I'll talk about setup of various tools and installation of all the tools like Git, like Jenkins and all, virtual machines will be an effective thing because I'm going to create a virtual machine there in either AWS cloud or Azure cloud. You can mention there in a comment section which cloud you would like to refer, which cloud you will prefer to create these resources on, or to install all the tools, so that I'll prefer that cloud itself. I'll set up all the labs in that cloud vendor itself. Okay. So now today let's begin with what is virtual machine in the first place. So even before you know about virtual machine, let's take about some real-time examples so that you understand what I'm referring to. And let's talk about very layman, very simple examples. But let's try to understand what the topics we are going to cover today. So today we'll get to know about what a server is, all the real-time use. We'll see some real-time use cases, some examples to understand what server is. We'll also try to understand the difference in between physical and virtual servers, and we will create a virtual machines also for you. So we'll start with this. We'll start with this, and then we will go to our use cases. We'll see some of the use cases also. Then we will try to see this thing also, which is very much important. And then we will how to create this virtual machines. I won't show you practically how to create a virtual machine today. That's a part of our tomorrow session. Tomorrow I'll show you how to create a virtual machine either in AWS or Azure. If you are putting in comments, well and good. Otherwise, I'll create in AWS. If you have any preference, just write in comments today itself. And then later on we'll see some of the examples of AWS and Azure and how they create their data centers and how do we actually able to create virtual machine on AWS and Azure. So let's kick it off. First, let's try to understand a server in very layman terms. I'll try to try to explain you a server. Now consider a very layman example. This is a multi-story building. Now, consider this is a building which is of 10 story and having hundreds of rooms, perhaps 10 rooms each story, each floor we do have. Now, having such big building, consider that only one person is staying in that building. It's such a lonely person he can be. So that in such big building of almost 100 rooms, this person alone is staying, and this person stayed there for pretty much longer period of time. What is happening? First of all, that person is lonely being in, and second thing is he's not getting any benefits of that big building. That big building, perhaps he can just accommodate 100 families and earn lots of money also, but he's not doing that. He's just staying in all those buildings. Sometimes he goes and there here and there and looks after all the rooms and just performs the cleanup. So it's all the losses only. First thing is uh, the ineffective usage is there for such a big building. It can be used much more effectively than the way it's using. And second thing is he is incurring lots of losses. He is not able to gain anything, but in order to perform cleanup, perhaps some maintenance activity across all the rooms, he has to pay to some or the other vendors, perhaps to sweepers itself. He has to pay a lot for performing cleanup of these such a big building. Now, what he has done later on, he has got some good thoughts, but some good individual, good person, good individual, and he started giving each of the rooms in rent. or perhaps gave the entire building in lease and he just started living in one single room. What the benefit he is getting out of this? Now it's the effective usage. Now he's getting money out of the building in the first place, and he can easily live in a one single room, because he's perhaps a single person, or perhaps a single family can easily live in a room, or easily live in one single flat. However, this big building is having almost hundreds of flats or hundreds of rooms within it, right? So what is the benefit? The benefit is, first thing is the effective usage. The first thing what is happening is, so first, the disadvantage of person living alone, which you can see here, the person is living absolutely alone at this point of time. At this point of time, person is living absolutely alone. What the disadvantage is? First thing is ineffective usage. Ineffective usage. Now, why it's ineffective? Ineffective because he's not able to gain any benefits, and he is utilizing he is trying to live in such big capacity of building, which actually doesn't need even. So it's almost unoccupied. Most of the part of the building is absolutely unoccupied. In order to overcome that, there is a better way, which is to start putting everything on lease. And this is what he has done. With this approach, how it changed, what the benefit is started giving, it is the effective usage of all the resources. Second, some gaining some benefits also, right? Gaining benefit, gaining benefits also in the form of rent, or whatever the lease amount is getting. He started getting some benefits also. So this is a real time example of how to utilize all the resources properly, a very layman terms example. Now I'll try to convert this into IT world, and that is where I'll introduce a server. Now consider that, what is a server? Let's try to understand in the first place, and I'll take you to approximately 10 to 15 years back. Server is a big computer system, which huge memory, which huge CPU core, which huge capacity. Like for example, your laptop is also a server, but your laptop do have limited capacity, which you can use for your personal purposes. Your laptop do have 500 GB memory, perhaps 1 TB of memory nowadays is also coming with CPU, one single CPU only, which you are utilizing at this point of time. And you can save lots of data of yourself. Let it be video, let it be audio, let it be images. You can save lots of data of yourself in your laptop itself. That is server. And that is what almost all the companies utilizing. All the company do have tons of data which is in their soft copy format, which could be either the videos or the files which company needs every now and then for processing a number of different products, or processing the information of their consumers and customers. They are utilizing those servers. Now let's try to understand with some examples of effective usage of resources, and how ineffectively companies were utilizing their resources, the resources of the servers, around a decade back, and how effectively it could be used with a virtual machine. Right. So let's start understanding it. Consider that a startup company, not that big company, because big companies will have hundreds or thousands of servers within it. Consider that a startup company is having 5 servers with them. Server 1, server 2, server 3, server 4, server 5, or consider that they're having 4 servers only at this point with them. The server do have certain capacity. Server 1 is having the capacity of 100 GB memory. 100 GB memory server 1 is having, along with the processor of 100 core CPU, and same is there with server 2 also. Server 2 is also having same thing. Server 3 is also having same sort of configuration. Server 4 is also having same sort of configuration. Even server 4 is having similar sort of configuration with them. Right. So all the 4 servers is having different types of configuration. Now, when company has bought these servers, certainly it has to be used for some purpose. Now, what company wants is company want to distribute these four servers to four different teams. Consider that when company handed over server one to team one, they gathered the requirement from team one, and team one said that, hey, I do have the requirement of 10 GB and I do have the requirement of 10 core processor. But what is the capacity which server is having? Server is having 100 GB of memory and 100 core CPU, but company did not have any option. Even though the memory requirement of team 1 was only 10 GB, 10 core, they had to hand over 100 GB because that is what they had. They cannot go ahead and purchase another one. They said, okay, fine, I'm a startup company. I have only these many servers with me. So use it. So now what is happening with this case? 90 GB of memory is unutilized. 90 core CPU is unutilized. So what is happening? Almost 90% of wastage is there. 90% of wastage which team 1 is doing. Team 2 said, okay, fine, I just need 20 GB and 12 core CPU. So company said, okay, fine, take server 2. Still here also all more or less 80% of wastage is there. And same goes to other company also. Third team also is causing almost 90% wastage, and team 4 is also causing wastage of almost 70%. So almost all the team which we are seeing here is ineffectively using the resources which they are provided to, which company has provided them. They're ineffectively using it, they're not effectively able to utilize it. So I'm using these term effectively every now and then because I'm I'm saying from day one itself that DevOps, the main purpose of DevOps is to effectively utilize the resources which you do have. Companies, IT industry had these resources or these methodology from very early of their foundation, but they were not effectively utilize it. And that is where they were not able to gain much of the benefit, more of the profit. But now companies having so much of profit, so much of benefits, but and this all profit is happening with the implementation of DevOps methodology, DevOps framework itself, right? So this is the ineffective usage. What you have seen in this example is ineffective usage or less effective usage of the resources which were available, which were provided by the company to different teams. What teams could have done better, or what company could have done better in order to have effective usage? Company has brought in a new, and that is where this new leap came in, and that is where this new technology evolved, to which we call as virtualization. The concept of virtualization has have generated because of this. So what has generated because of this? The concept of virtualization came. uh, the concept of virtualization came because of this virtualization. So now what virtualization has done, instead of giving instead of giving uh, one single box of 100 GB capacity, instead of giving one single server whose capacity is 100 GB memory and 100 CPU core, 100 core CPU, what companies started doing, they started creating some virtual segregation, some virtual isolation. Right, so they started creating some logical separation or logical partition of resources which is present in one single server only. So they started doing the logical partition of these resources. So they have done logical partition of these all resources. So with logical partition, what happened? With logical partition, they started segregating 100 GB memory and 100 core CPU into smaller chunks, which is, for example, for an instance, maybe 10 GB memory and 10 core CPU, or they divided into 20 GB memory and 12 core CPU, and so on and so forth. There could be multiple chunks based on all the resources which is available in the server. So they started breaking down entire resources which were present in a server into smaller chunks. And instead of giving a single server, which is of huge capacity, which teams were not able to utilize properly, which we have seen in this slide, where teams are not able to utilize the resources properly, rather than giving entire server which were using ineffect which were getting used ineffectively by teams, what companies started doing, they started giving the smaller logical partitions to different teams. Now, team one having the requirement of 10 GB memory and 10 core CPU could easily utilize, because now what is happening is company actually gave the logical partition of 10 GB memory and 10 core CPU to team one, because that's what team one required. Team one said that, okay, fine, I do have the requirement of this, and company has created a logical partition of 10 GB memory and 10 core CPU out of that bigger box. So consider that the bigger box, the biggest box which you can see, is actually 100 GB memory and 100 core CPU. Now created a smaller chunk and gave to team one, created a smaller chunk and gave to team two, team three, and so on and so forth, based on the resources which is available. And how this has happened, this all thing has happened with the use of one single software which is installed there in the physical server, to which we call as hypervisor. So hypervisor is the software which is able to break the memory, or break the core, break the operating system, or break the processor into smaller chunks, into smaller logical partitions, which can be given separately without any connections or without any dependencies. Each of the team can utilize it, and that all thing is done by hypervisor. So hypervisor is the software which is capable of hypervisor is the software which is capable of doing logical partition, logical partition of server, and is capable to create smaller chunks which can be easily given to different teams. So this is what is doing. And quite the hypervisor is used across all the companies which you can think about, all the companies which you can think about. It's all is done by hypervisor. Now hypervisor is of different types, type 1 and type 2 hypervisor, and there are different examples of hypervisor also. I won't go much in depth in what are the different types of hypervisor at this point, because this is at very early stage. I want to give you a kind of high level overview of what hypervisor is capable of, and that's what I'll do in our today's session. As the session grows, as you will get to know more and more about virtual machines, as we will reach to containerization, there I'll give you the different types of hypervisor and what are the benefits of different types of hypervisor, type 1 hypervisor, type 2 hypervisor, what they do. That all will be explained in our upcoming sessions in container. So stay tuned, stay with me. You will get to know about everything. Okay, so now hypervisor is not only used in industries which is having only 3 to 4 servers. Hypervisor is used by any of the cloud platform which you can think about. So same concept is with Amazon also, Azure also, GitHub also. All the platform, all the companies which is offering you cloud platform, they do have this hypervisor concept with them. They have the big servers with them, and they are all breaking. They all are giving smaller chunks of resources to us with the use of hypervisor only. So this is the bigger concept. So what we have learned till now, let's take a quick recap of what we have learned till now before we move on to our next topic. So what we have learned till now, we have learned about what is virtual machine, what is a server. We have learned that what is a server. We have learned that this part we have learned. What is a server? Server, in case if someone asks me to define what is a server, server is a machine where data is present, where the logical component of data is present, where the soft copy of data could be present. In very simple words, I'll say this. Server is a machine where the soft copy of my data is present, which is accessible from anywhere nowadays, because everything is over internet. I can go anywhere. I cannot carry my perhaps bunch of files with me, but in case if I put all the files there in the server, doesn't matter where I go, it's present there, it's accessible online. Nowadays it's present with almost if you think about the code which is present, because nowadays what's happening, Now this what's happening is, consider that a developer has written the code. Developer has written the code. Now developer has the code which is developer has written. It goes to a version control system. Version control system like Git or GitHub. Don't worry, in case if you don't know about Git and GitHub at this point, we will start with Git and GitHub sessions very soon in our upcoming sessions itself. So now developer writes the code and the code is present in a version control system like Git and GitHub. What is this Git and GitHub? Which is a space which is offered by GitHub vendor over the cloud, some virtual machine. It's there. So concept of virtual machine started from here itself. So concept of virtual machine started from here itself. Now what happens after this? Developer, we all are able to access google.com, facebook.com, and number of servers or number of websites which is accessible over the internet. How it's happening? It's happening because these google.com or facebook.com is present on a physical server. Quite the same thing which developer will also do. Developer has created some application, maybe the code which developer has written. Because of that code, some application is formed. Maybe some application is developed, some app one. Now this app one also has to go and lie there on server, so that consumers, which finally reaches to consumers like you and I. So this is the use of servers. Servers is nowadays is getting used by company to deploy their application, to just expose their applications so that end users, so that consumers, so that customers can utilize it. And it's present there with any of the application which you are thinking, which you are using at this point of time. Any of the application or any of the URL which you are accessing over internet is present on some or the other server. That is a server. So after learning server, what we have learned? We have learned the concept of virtualization, right? We have learned the concept of virtualization. And while learning virtualization, we have learned what is hypervisor. We have learned what is hypervisor. Okay, so now in all the servers and while learning hypervisor, what we have learned that the companies normally do have physical servers. On physical servers, as they install any hyper servers, then with the use of hypervisor, what the companies are able to do, they are able to just isolate, or they are just able to break the or create the logical isolation of resources like memory, like core processor, and they are able to just share that across with different vendors. So now let's try to see some real time examples. Now consider about any vendor. For example, if I talk about Amazon data centers, consider Amazon data centers. Amazon do have their footprints across a number of different regions in the globe. Now, consider one single Amazon data center. Consider this is Amazon data center, and this Amazon data centers do have a number of these kind of servers. Amazon data centers do have a number of servers like this. Like this, a number of servers are there like this, and these servers are present in some racks. And actually, within the server, if you'll see, they look something like this. They look somewhat like this, right? So now these Amazon data centers do have so many servers, and these all the servers do have some or the other hypervisor configured, some or the other hypervisor installed. And as we place any request to create a virtual machine, automatically that request is passed to hypervisor. That hypervisor considers our request, and based on the request which we have raised, based on that they create a virtual machine. In terms of Amazon, we call as EC2 instance. So based on the request which we place, they create a EC2 instance for us. I'll try to explain it with very simple example so that you can understand it. For example, Amazon Amazon do have the servers of different capacity. Consider that in Amazon data centers, they do have the servers of different capacity. They do have perhaps thousands of servers, and in this servers, they do have the consider this. This is the This is the, I'll roughly draw some diagram to just mimic what you are seeing below in the picture. So consider that these are the different different layers of racks, which you can see here. Consider this is this. Now here Amazon is having so many of servers already present. Now, I, being a user, have placed a request. I said that I want just maybe a virtual machine. I want a VM or EC2 instances, which is in terms of AWS. And the capacity which I'm looking for is 10 GB memory and 12 core CPU. Now, what what first, and this I can do, I can place a request either by going into Amazon portal, or I have written some sort of scripts. That script can be written by using Terraform or by using Ansible, and I just placed a request to have the resources created. Now, my request reaches to hypervisor. Hypervisor is present in all the machines. In all the machine which you're seeing here, hypervisor is present. Hypervisor is installed. And the same thing is here, same thing is here. All the machines, all the servers which you're seeing, hypervisor is installed. So now with these hypervisor, what is happening? My request is actually considered by these hypervisor, and then hypervisor looks, okay, fine, out of these many servers, which server do have the capacity to accommodate this request? It might happen that the first server here, consider this is first server and this is 100th server. First server is not having enough memory or enough core, but 100th server is perhaps empty. This server is perhaps empty, and it's having, consider that it's having 1000 GB memory and it's having 1000 core CPU. Now, this being this server, in this server being having sufficient memory and sufficient core CPU available, it is easily able to accommodate my request. Right. So now, since it's able to accommodate my request went to the hypervisor of that specific server, and based on my request, a virtual machine is created and it's handed over to me. So what I got in return, it's not as in I got the virtual machine. I mean, I don't own that virtual machine. I cannot go to Amazon data center and say that, hey, this is my virtual machine, give it to me because I have to install some software onto it. No, this is not going to happen because I don't own it. What I get in return is I just get one IP address, and Amazon allows me to access, even though I'm paying certain money to access. Perhaps I'm say paying $10. I'm just giving some example. Say I'm paying say $10 to access that virtual machine. It doesn't mean that I own it. I just get one IP address which Amazon offers me, and with that IP address, I will be able to access that specific virtual machine. So this is the concept of virtual machine. This is the revolution which IT industry has brought in, because of which they are effectively able to use the resources of servers which were initially unoccupied, which were initially ineffective. But with the concept of virtualization, with the concept of hypervisor, with the concept of virtual memory, they are able to utilize all the resources which is available there in the servers, and they're able to share it across with different teams. They are able to share it with many of the consumers. Consider it in this way: if Amazon won't have the concept of virtualization, if Amazon won't came up with the concept of hypervisor and virtualization and this AWS cloud initially, then perhaps they would have shared this hundreds of servers with 100 different teams or with 100 different groups. But now, with the concept of cloud, with the concept of hypervisor, with the concept of virtualization, they are sharing their hundreds of servers with perhaps millions of customers across the globe, and they are having good benefits out of it. So and they are also able to utilize the resources also properly. So it's always a win-win situation for the company, with the organization, with the consumers, with the customers who are using it. This is the revolution which is brought by virtualization. Hope you understood what virtualization is. Hope you understood what VM is. Please post in the comments in case if you do have any questions or any trouble in understanding the concept of VM, virtualization, or hypervisor, I'll be happily responding to your comments. I'm thoroughly watching all the comments which you are putting. Any comments, any questions will certainly be addressed and will be answered immediately. So thank you everyone for watching day 3 of session, which is all about virtualization, virtual machines. If you're liking my sessions, please hit on like button and say in case if you feel as if this video could be shared by shared with someone else who don't have enough knowledge on virtual machine or virtualization, and to whom you think that this video can provide some benefit, please share with others also. And yes, to grow together, please try to subscribe the channel so that we both can grow together on it. Thank you everyone for watching.